All right, welcome everyone. I wanted to create a video on how to create this emblem style logo that we're creating for our Madison Park Academy auto repair, and just go through how to create this. So the steps involved are creating a tread shape and a circle that will serve as our tire and rotating this tread around the tire shape, creating paths to hold our text, Madison Park Academy and auto repair, and making sure that we use the rulers and the guides in order to align our text and make it professional and in proportion. So those are the steps involved, and let's get to it. So the first thing we need is our tread shape, and I'm going to be using the rectangle tool. I can hit M on my keyboard to activate the rectangle tool, and I'm going to be holding shift as I draw so that, oops, sorry, I'm not. So I'm just going to draw a short rectangle. So don't hold shift or you'll make a square. So I'm going to be creating my rectangle shape and zoom in just a little bit. I'm going to use the direct selection tool and activate the anchors on the bottom and just hold that out just a little bit. I just want to create this sort of trapezoid shape at the bottom, and now I'm going to slightly round the top two anchors. So again, with my direct selection tool, I'm going to click on that one anchor on the right and hold shift, and click on the anchor on the left and just slightly pull down with that widget. So now this is my tread piece. I'm going to put that aside. Now I'm going to create the tire, and we have to switch back to the ellipse tool. So click L on the keyboard and then hold shift down as you draw a perfect circle. So I'm going to go back to my selection tool and line those up. So notice that the tread is not really in proportion to the tire, so I'm going to hold shift and scale that down just a bit and line that up. So to make sure these are perfectly centered, I'm going to use the selection tool to select both of those together, and you're going to want your align panel to be showing. So you can use these tools throughout this process. If you do not have your align tool panel open, you can activate it by going to window and making sure that you have a check mark next to align. So now with these two pieces selected, I'm going to click the center and see they shift so that these two are perfectly centered. And now we want to rotate this tread piece around this tire, the main tire part. So I'm going to click on this piece, and then I'm going to activate the rotate tool on the toolbar. Notice we get this cyan colored crosshair shape in the middle of that tread piece. I'm going to hold Option on the keyboard and find the center of this circle. And when you find the center of the circle, whoops, see it right there. The word center helpfully appears, and then we're going to click down. I'm still holding Option, and the rotate dialog box appears. So I'm going to put 360 in there because a circle has 360 degrees. Then I'm going to put a slash, and now I'm going to put I think 18. So that's going to create 18, enough space to have 18 of these tread pieces around that circle. And then I'm going to choose copy. So see, it makes a copy of my piece. It's good that this happened so I can show you what to do about it. Notice that the space, as I zoom in, there's not really much space between these two tread pieces. So I chose 18. I'm going to redo that and choose maybe 14, so a fewer number, so I can add more space between each shape. If this happens when you create yours, you can either make your tread piece smaller or just add fewer of them. So I'm gonna recreate that process. So I'm glad that happened so I can show you what to do when it does. So we have this tread piece, and I'm gonna go click the rotate tool, and then I'm gonna hold Option as I find the center of my circle right there. And I'm going to click down, activate the rotate dialog box, and choose 360 slash, and this time I'm going to put 14, and then I'm going to choose copy. So that's going to leave me with a little bit of space between each tread so that when I expand the circle, it actually looks more like a tire. So I'm going to repeat that last action I did in Illustrator, and I'm going to choose Command D. So I'm going to continue with Command D until I've filled up the circle with tread pieces. So I'm Command D all the way around. Okay, now that I've done that, I need to expand the circle proportionally so that it fills up that extra space. So I want to click on this circle piece in the center, and I'm going to hold Shift and Option at the same time. And that will scale the circle but keep it fixed in place. So I can overlap those tread pieces. So these are still separate objects. Each one of these is a separate shape. So I'm going to select around the whole thing and choose Command G to group it. So for now, we're just going to group it. Okay. So we've got that piece, and if I look back at our example up here, we also want to create sort of what the center of this tire. So creates this little star shape out of the negative space between those pieces. So we're going to do the same sort of rotating process that we did with the treads, but we're just going to create the triangle pieces and then a smaller circle. So we don't have a triangle listed on our toolbar, but we do have a rectangle. So if we create a rectangle by holding Shift, you're going to create a square. We will be turning this into a rectangle, or sorry, a triangle. So I'm going to just click that and select the color, the fill color, and turn this into white because we need something higher contrast to see it against the black tire shape. So now we have our square, and we need to turn this into a triangle shape. So to do that, we're going to use our pen tool. So when you choose the pen tool, notice there's this little asterisk that's attached to the cursor. We're going to press the minus key on our keyboard to get this Remove Anchor tool, and we're going to click on the bottom right anchor of our square. And when we do that, it turns it into a triangle. So I'm going to select the selection tool, and when I see, I'm going to hover over the corner of this shape, the bounding box, and I get that rotate arrow. I'm going to hold Shift down and rotate this piece until it's facing downward. So just like we've used the direct selection tool to round the parts of previous shapes we've made in this process, we're going to activate the direct selection tool and click the anchor at the tip of the triangle. And then activate the widget, and we're going to pull down a little bit and round that side. Okay. Now we also want to select these, but we're not going to round the side anchors quite as much. So I'm going to click on the direct selection tool and click on the right anchor and hold Shift as I click on the left anchor. And I'm just going to activate these widgets and just pull them down just a tiny bit to slightly round those edges. So now this is the piece that's going to make up that center collection that'll create that negative space, star shape in the center of our tire. So we need to make a circle around which we're going to rotate this new triangle shape that we've just created. So we're going to activate our ellipse tool by hitting L on the keyboard, and I'm going to hold Shift, and I'm going to draw a small circle. So this circle does not have to be big. We're just going to line it up just as we did before by selecting both pieces and choosing Horizontal Align Center on our Align panel. And we're going to click on our triangle shape and then choose the Rotate tool on the toolbar. By holding Option, then I'm going to find the center of my circle and click down. And in the Rotate tool that appears, I'm going to type 360 / and this time I'm going to put 5 because we only need 5 pieces. And then I'm going to choose Copy. And I'm going to do Command D to repeat, Command D and Command D. So notice by creating those shapes in the way that we did, we've kind of created this like little star shape that we can have in the center of our tire. So we're going to group this by selecting it with the selection tool and doing Command G. So now this is one object that I can move around on our board. So I'm just going to place that in the center of my circle, and I'm going to select both of these shapes and just make sure that they are aligned horizontally along the center and also vertically. So now those are centered in the middle. So the next piece that we're going to be working on is this white ring that goes around this center collection of shapes. And we don't want to just draw a circle and then sort of fix it in place. We want to have a circle that is proportionally is proportional to the center and to the outer shape as well. So we're going to start in the center of this small circle and work outward to create our shape. So to do that, we're going to activate the ellipse tool and find the center of this circle, and I'm going to hold Shift and Option at the same time and click and drag down to make my circle. So what I want to do is have it surround those middle shapes, but also leave enough space for some text to be placed on the outer edges of the tire. So I'm going to reverse this. I have the fill turned in white and I have no stroke right now, so I'm going to reverse those, and then I'm going to increase the thickness of the stroke till it's about maybe 4 is fine. So far this is what we have. Okay, so just to be sure everything is still aligned, I'm going to select all the shapes together, including that new ring that we just created, and click to line it horizontally and align it vertically. So now this makes sure that there's the same amount of space here as up here, and kind of is evenly spaced throughout the shape. All right. So the next thing we're going to do is create this text for Madison Park Academy and auto repair down here. So the shape that we just created, this circle, we're going to hover over that with the selection tool and hold Option, and then click and drag 2 copies of that shape. All right, so now we have 2 copies of this circle, and we're going to be using the Type on a Path tool in order to get Madison Park Academy and then auto repair on the bottom of these circles. So I'm going to click on my Type tool on the toolbar and activate the Type on a Path tool. And then I'm just going to click around the circle, and notice it's filled automatically with Greek text. I'm going to type Madison Park Academy. And one of the things you notice is that the type is kind of on the side of the circle over here. What I want to do is center the text along the top half of the circle here. So in order to do that, I'm going to just grab this little handle on the side and kind of move that around the circle, and then I can move my type down as well. So I'm just kind of scooting this text, because I just want to see it move a little bit around the text here. So I'm just going to kind of take this and just kind of grab this around. Whoops. All right, so now we have that sort of aimed in that direction. I'm just going to use this to kind of even those out. So notice how what I'm trying to do here is line this M up with this Y. And one way you can check your work is to grab a guide from the ruler. If you don't have your rulers showing, you can choose Command R on the keyboard. Command R will get your rulers to appear. Click and hover over the ruler itself to grab a guide, and I'm just going to underline, put it right to the edge of where that M starts. I currently have guides turned off, which is good, so I can show you how to turn them on. So I'm going to go to the View menu and find Guides and Show Guides. And now we see the guide that I just created. So if I zoom in here, we notice that this Y hovers a little bit below that guideline, and the M is just kind of where that guideline starts. So I can handle this a couple different ways. I can make this text just a tiny bit smaller. So if I just want to kind of just bring that under a hair, if I want to just bring that down just a little bit, I can do that to kind of even that out a little bit. But another thing that I can do is I can decrease the space between that text a little bit. This is already pretty chunky, so I don't necessarily want to kern it quite that much. So I can go that way, right? The other thing that I can do is to, with the direct selection tool, is now I can just kind of try to activate those that tool again to just sort of pull it just a tiny bit down. Okay, that's a little bit closer. We're going to call that good for now. And so we have the top half of our text, Madison Park Academy. And what we need to do now is do the same thing to get auto repair onto the bottom of this. So I'm going to click on my type tool, and I'm going to choose type on a path tool, and then I'm going to click on this one and say auto repair. It's really hard to type upside down. There we go. So I've got auto repair. Okay, so I'm just going to hold shift and I'm going to rotate that around so it's kind of facing upward. So I want to get this type down on the bottom and sort of in the inside of the circle. So I'm going to select this circle and choose from the type menu, I'm going to choose type on a path and type on a path options. So it's a good idea when you're changing things to click the preview menu box so that you can see your changes as they occur. I'm going to choose from align to path. I'm going to have it aligned to the ascender, and notice that moves the text. The path is now at the top of the letters. And then I'm going to choose flip and say OK. So what that's going to do is move my letters to the outer edge of my circle, and so I'm going to use this tool to rotate that around. So I'm kind of going to put that in the center, center of my circle. Okay, so I've got that going on, and if I just hold shift, I'm going to kind of rotate that around. Whoops. So I want to click this, and then I'm just using this tool. All right, I'm going to try that again. So I'm going to grab this, and I've got my type on a path tool. And then I'm just going to kind of push this text with the space bar to kind of get it in place where I want it to be. Oops. Okay, so I want to, then I'm just going to take this little anchor and kind of move that around the circle a little bit. And click here where I can kind of space this out. And okay, so I'm just going to kind of get that where I need it to be. What I want to do is flip this text. So I'm going to select the circle and choose type on a path, and type on a path options. And then I'm going to choose flip and preview so I can see sort of how that works. And I'm going to move this out a little bit just so it kind of moves my text. So I'm going to take a copy of this Madison Park Academy circle, hold option, and then put this down here. I'm just going to copy over where it says Madison Park. I'm going to type auto repair. Okay, so now I want, in order for this to be on the bottom of the circle, I have to move it to the bottom, and I'm going to put it on the outside of this circle. So I'm going to select this and choose type on a path options, and I'm going to click this preview button box and choose ascender, and then I'm going to choose flip, and then OK. So now I need to just move this text around to the bottom, to the bottom of the circle. And I'm going to have that right there. So now I have the text here and the text here. So just like we use the guideline to line up the text on the top of the circle, we can use the guideline to sort of check where the text begins and ends on the bottom of the circle. So if I do that, I notice that there's a little bit more space here on this side of repair than over here by auto. So I can click inside this text and I can just put like a space, a couple spaces to even that out a little bit. And so now I've got the text where I want it, and I need to line up these two circles together. So I'm going to select them both. Actually, I'm going to move my guides so that I don't select the guides as well. I'm going to select both of those circles, and notice the center points are not lined up right now. What I want to do is align them horizontally and then also vertically, and now they're perfectly aligned. So before we proceed, let's do Command G to group those. And then in order for there to be contrast, we can give the text a different color. So we're going to change the fill to something that's bright that you can see against the black background of our tire. So I'm going to take this grouped text and I'm going to put it around the center of the circle. So notice that it's not quite centered with everything else. So we're going to select all of these pieces and choose center horizontally and also center vertically. And so that increases, that lines everything up. But we still don't have enough space between this inner ring and where the space goes. So we want to adjust the shape of this text proportionally. So to do that, I'm going to select it with the selection tool and choose Shift and Option at the same time. And then I'm going to stretch the text so that it fills up that black space proportionally. And whenever you're doing that, be sure that you let the mouse up first instead of the keys on the keyboard. Otherwise, it'll just snap back into shape. All right, so there's our finished emblem style auto repair logo, and there's a little bit more that we'll do to prepare our logos at the end for being ready to turn over to our clients, and we'll go in on that in a future video. So in order to turn this into Google Classroom, you can select all of your work and then choose File, Export Selection, and export this as a PNG and turn it into Google Classroom. Let me know if you have any questions, and that's it for now. Thanks. Bye.